George, Justice Kanyeihamba, and I'm from African Justice Media. And I'm going to give an opportunity to the speakers of today. If I look at the flyer, I have Dr. Walu Rina Zedriga, and she is the Vice President of the National Unity Platform. Now we have Mr. Solomon Nawiyanda, a human rights defender. Okolel Opio Lo Amanu from the Democratic Party, and he is the DP spokesperson there. Now we have Mr. Ivan Bowe. He's a lawyer and a research fellow. Dr. Amelia Matembe, a human rights defender who is not with us right now. And on this opportunity, I'll start with Mr. Ivan Bowe. Please talk to our viewers, introduce briefly more about yourself, as I just given the name.
Thank you so much. My name is Bowe Ivan. I am a proud Ugandan. I am an activist. I am a writer. I am a student. I am an advocate of the High Court. But above all, I am a human being.
Interesting. So that's how the line is going to go up to the next speaker.
My name is Godwin Toko. I am not a proud Ugandan. I can't be one at the moment for a number of reasons. But unfortunately, I am a Ugandan. So that's the unfortunate bit of it. Not proud, but a Ugandan still. I am a lawyer by training. I am a researcher, and I work at one of the top research firms and legal think tanks in the country. I am passionate about books. To that effect, we have a small and newly established YouTube channel called All Books Uganda, where we review books. That's it basically about me. And of course, I'm a passionate admirer of Professor Kanyeihamba.
Yeah, I am Okoler Opiolo Amanu. I think it is natural that I do introduce what I did also at the university, because my predecessors have done so. My first degree is in food science and technology. I am currently pursuing a bachelor's of legal laws from Makere University, and I am the spokesperson of Democratic Party. I fell in love with professor's books beginning from first year, and I count it a privilege to be reviewing one of his latest books. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator, and everyone on this panel for this wonderful opportunity. My name is John Solomon Nabuyanda Tusubira, a human rights defender in Uganda. Like Toko over there, I don't think I'm proud to be Ugandan at the moment, because in a country where human dignity is devalued, there is nothing worth pride. Further still, I want to note I do a lot of things. I think I should note that I'm also a former youth MP aspirant for Eastern Uganda, where I think as the youngest contestant in that race at the age of 20 then. Growing up in a legal-minded family, where we've given Uganda one of the longest-serving chief justices because of his integrity. I had the name of Kanyeihamba all the time. In my Form 6 VAC, it's when I actually encountered with one of his books called Political History of Uganda. And depending on his views, actually, I was convicted to believe in whatever he penned down. And since then, I've fallen in love with the intellect and integrity or character of Prof.G.W. Kanyeihamba, And I'm happy and honored today that I sit on this panel as one of the reviewers of his latest books. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, viewers and practitioners. I want to start by sincerely apologizing to those I gave a wrong impression that this discussion would start at 4 o'clock dot. I sincerely apologize because I am a timekeeping freak, and also the professor whose book we are reviewing or we are having inside is a time keeping person. So my sincere apologies. I do not take that delay for granted. But I'm not taking responsibility for it because I was here earlier. Well, my name is Lina Zedriga Waru Abuku, and I am born and bred in West Nile, proudly Northern Uganda, proudly an African woman, proudly an activist, and apologetically a politician in the opposition by choice, not by chance.
Thank you so much, Doctor, and everyone here. Now, I would want us, since we don't have much time here, I would want us to start straight. But on behalf of the organizing team, I would also want to apologize for delaying a little bit due to unavoidable circumstances. Now, I'll start with Mr. Ivan Bowie. According to page 29, this is not like an interview. Let's feel free. It's just a book discussion, a book review. You just sharing your insights about the book and relate them to what is happening in the country. Now, Bowie, Mr. Ivan Bowie, you a lawyer, you said you are an activist as well. And since you in that legal profession, what do you think went wrong? Because according to Article 23, it says what went wrong.
I think the whole thing from the very beginning was wrong. We had a false start as a country under the NRMO. I clearly say NRMO, not by mistake. It's National Resistance Movement Organization. So the virtual fact that we had to go through what they call a liberation, spill blood of very many innocent Ugandans who dreamt for a better future, but also just change the guards instead of what the very many died for. That at that particular point was a false start. And I want to also state that many of the commanders, many of the people that rendered support to the conquest of President Museveni, culminating into state capture, were woodwinked. And I know very many who regret ever supporting and feeding the serpent. And to me, that is where it went wrong at first. But also, history teaches us in a way that we cannot run away. The first scandal, the first corruption scandal, was as early as 1996, 1997, with Uganda Airways, the first corruption scandal. Then we had the scandal of the buying of the sardines and all that. And all these scandals are actually documented, and you can trace it up to Feb, as early as Feb 1986. You know, that went through 1987 and all that. And you see, particularly, they started stealing hundreds. They've graduated, now they are stealing in trillions. I am worried that our national coffers might be stolen completely, if not already stolen. So all those were signals as early as 1986 that we actually never paid attention to, but that's where we are even now. I want to quote President Museveni on 4th of December 2018 at Imperial Royal at the Transparency International Day. He said that corruption was a minor problem. 1986. Corruption was a minor problem. And I want to agree with him in total that it was a minor problem, that he has made one of the biggest problems. He should account for this. I also note that Professor Kanyeihamba in the book noted that for whatsoever that is right, President Museveni takes responsibility. But for whatsoever that's wrong, he pushes it onto others. But this one in particular is on him. As Professor Kanyeihamba tried to show you that he shields the corrupt, promotes the corrupt, maintains the corrupt. And in the words of Justice Mulyagonja, when he was still acting IGG, he said the thieves act behind the back of the president. And I want to be a lawyer at this point by saying that we have abettors, we have co-conspirators, we have, all those kinds of, but that does not in any way put them out of the equation. And these were, in the words of President Museveni, going back to that meeting in December 2018, these were Uganda's problems. Extrajudicial killings by government agents, lack of democracy, and that one he alluded to the elections in 1962 and in 1980. Total collapse of the economy characterized by smuggling, black markets and speculation. Today, I do not know if we are better with almost all sovereign assets.
Okay, just a bit. I'm going to get back to you. According to the book as well, Professor Kanyeihamba says when the NRM came in power in 25th January 1986, that they actually found nothing in the National Treasury. So, and you talked about the point of they want the National Treasury is like, you will relate it to it as if it has nothing. So maybe they could be copying the element. What do you think about that? Because that's the reason as to why Professor Kanyeihamba, when he was given a Minister of Economics and a Minister of Commerce, he had to bring in barter trade.
But you see, the challenge is that we forget so fast. We tend to forget so fast. Why was there nothing in the national coffers when you've had a war, an insurgency in the country for the 5 years? And I've had this argument all the time. We brought peace, but the first question is who was disrupting the peace? But also, you cannot tell me that you bring peace by fighting. So we have to understand that even Idi Amin Dada actually had that notion of barter trade and getting loans, even when we didn't have to pay back that much, from Libya, from Saudi Arabia and other countries. So Professor Kanyeihamba, in his love for barter trade, he forgot one thing, that the people that had appointed him were setting him up and were not interested in that barter trade. We also have to note that, okay, now we are talking economics. Who packed the stones that made to the collapse of the Cuba deal? Don't we see those very same things? And I want to note with the negotiations. Why would you change a person you've sent to negotiate a deal? What message does that send? Today, don't we have serious issues with our foreign policy, foreign relations. Coffee used to be what we were going to trade. Today, where are we?
We exchange cars,
You know, I remember when I was a young boy, I remember the takeover of cooperative unions. My grandfather, till his death, was a coffee farmer, and that has gone on over the years. I remember as a young boy, he had a dryer around Kameketa, Kalisizo, on Salongo Joseph Mukasa Road. And as a young boy, what will never leave my mind is that I remember soldiers came and took his dryer. It used to dry coffee beans and process them. And that perhaps marked the beginning of him disagreeing with President Museveni. So are coffee farmers better now? So what can we even butter today? What is our competitive advantage as a country? So you find to it that they're milking a cow. Cartoonists usually have a better way of putting it. They're milking a cow they never feed. And now we are in a position where we are back into speculation for photo. You see now the fuel prices? They were high then, they are high now. You know, there was an article that I read in the New Vision of some good years ago, about 2000, when fuel shot to about 1,500, when Ugandan money still held some little value, even notwithstanding the issues that came with devaluation of our currency change and all that, and the theft that occurred right there. But the government currently has no control over the direction of our economy.
So do you mean that in actual sense, everything went wrong from the start? Because
yes.
According to Professor, he says in the first 5 years, when they made the constitution and they gave the president 2 terms, and after 2 terms elapsed, he said, I need another 5 years. And after that, he had to convince the cabinet. When cabinet refused, he had to convince his members of parliament. But to him, he says that in the beginning,
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean by convince.
He tried to convince the cabinet to support his idea of
buy. I think buy is the right word.
Okay, to buy his idea, and later the cabinet refused, and that's why we're talking about those of Dr. Media Matembe. They refused, and they were drawn out of cabinet after him convincing the member of parliament. And those of Honorable Jaberi, that's how they were chased from cabinet, because they never bought his idea. So do you think everything was wrong from the start, or there was some little democracy when things started?
I want to tell you that character is you cannot hide. Character is like pregnancy. So you can hide it. You can hide it for 2 months, 1 month, but when it reaches 7 months, you might not be able to hide.
So your view is totally.
So Museveni's character, in regards of what went wrong in Uganda, is a pimple on the forehead. So, so it is just, we are just seeing it in the more clear terms now. So I want to say that clearly, the indicators, the earlier indicators, even with the recognition, as Professor Kanyeihamba said, the recognition of those that fought in what they term as the Liberation War is also equally telling. I want to let you know that we had the Popular Resistance Army, we had the Uganda Freedom Fighters, we had the Uganda Patriotic Movement Party. I mean, it was not Museveni alone, but at the moment, Telesita Museveni alone. He's the one, he's the man. All others, the Kaira seem to be nowhere. And I'm glad Professor Kanyeihamba noted it. But that's what I said, is that those were the simple early signs of them noticing that actually they were on a ride to nowhere.
So maybe the quote by Road Action that power collapse and absolute power collapse absolutely. Maybe that could be what happened.
No, I don't want to blame it on power. I want to blame it on the character of those individuals. We have had quite very many that have not been corrupted by power. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now, thank you for sharing those insights. I will go straight to Mr. Opio Laamanu Okalel, taking us through chapter 65, page 65, which says, who exactly is President Museveni? You're a man who knows this man because you're competing with him in the Democratic Party. You're a man who is in the political party, and actually one of the oldest political party, according to this book, actually. And it mentions that who exactly is President Museveni according to that book and according to you?
Well, first of all, I wish to take the opportunity. I will get back to this, but I wish to take the opportunity to appreciate the courage of Professor Kanyeihamba, because oftentimes intellectuals have been criticized as people who have not done much, who have not done anything. So if we have people in the intellectual arena who can come up and criticize and put their thoughts on record, I think it is worth appreciating. I am going to address the question based on all that has been written, because I read the whole book. And I think, Professor, I think in the introduction, he talks about how President Museveni approached him and inquired whether he would take up the job of a cabinet minister in his cabinet, because at the time, President Museveni was constituting his cabinet. And in Professor's mind, he knew that he was going to be appointed Minister of Justice and the Attorney General, because based on his background of law, he was fit to be deployed there. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, he was appointed Minister of Commerce. To his consternation, he inquired, why have you appointed me Minister of Commerce? And yet I am a lawyer. I thought that the Ministry of Justice is my share. And I love the answer that President Museveni gave to him about honesty and integrity. We are looking for honest people. We are looking for people with utmost level of integrity. And now that Commerce being a key ministry, I could definitely not look further than you, because based on your integrity and honesty, you do deserve. So the qualification is honesty for you to be in that position. I do not see President Museveni a honest person based on what has been reduced or condensed into a writing. Because if you look at the scenarios and what he speaks, I can give you an instance where Professor was accused of hiking import prices on imported products. And yet it was a cabinet resolution which needed to be owned collectively, collective responsibility. But it is written, Professor puts it down, and he emphasizes that he had to take the blame and shame
But still,
for a decision that was taken collectively. And the person who orchestrated or who made that blame on him and brought it to the public was President Museveni. I remember the story that he gave him when he inquired. So I am an innocent man. It is written that President Museveni answered the good professor that, you see, in Kinyankore there is a man who went hunting. And no, it was not hunting. It's a man who was attacked, by a lion, but he was a sacrifice. Actually, he cut off his small finger and he gave it to the lion. So in the process of the lion, feasting on this finger, they were saved. The others were saved, and then he saved the whole part of his body. So to him, you can do a simple injury in quotes, a simple injury to someone, as long as he is to protect himself and his government. This actually brings it out clearly that whatever thing that dents President Museveni's image, he is someone who is willing to do anything to atone that. It does not matter whether what he is doing is illegal, whether what he is doing is morally wrong, whether what he is doing does not actually make sense. He does it anyway. He focuses on one thing: himself, himself, himself. That is the reason why he even went to the extent of sacrificing and painting the good professor a bad person outside there. That's one. Two, this afternoon I was at the Uganda Road, the case of Kakwenza.
Yeah.
And what is he being accused of? Because he actually spoke words of vituperation. It is alleged that he spoke words of vituperation against the powers that be, the father and the son. And recently, there are some statements that are made by President Museveni, only that Ugandans sometimes take them for granted. A few days ago, President Museveni stood up and said, I named my son Muhozi because he's the one to avenge those that do me wrong. And in my perspective of those statements is that, one, so Lieutenant General Muhozi was avenging Museveni by torturing Kakwenza. That's one. Two, I think President Museveni has realized that he's sitting on a volcano, to the extent that he's not sure who is with him and who is not with him. So he had to send a message that whoever that does wrong to me, I have someone who is going to avenge on my behalf. So there is absolutely no honesty in President Museveni. He is a dishonest man. That is one qualification. The second one, there is no goodwill to fight corruption. Actually, there were attempts, I think 1 month ago or thereabouts, where the IGG came up with a strategy of lifestyle audit. A lifestyle audit, as Democratic Party, we included it in our manifesto 2021. And our view was, we needed to audit people. There are many people who are owning arcades in the middle of town, in the central business district. Very expensive. But when you are to interrogate and investigate the source of their income, even if they have worked, in assumption that they have worked for over 20 years, they may not be able to accumulate the wealth that can put up such arcades, such properties. We were alive to the fact that there are people who do business. But then, if it is a business, in lifestyle audit, you must be able to show us the business and how much it does give you in terms of profit. On that day, when the IGG brought out the idea, hoping that President Museveni perhaps will appreciate her, she was actually overawed by the response that President Museveni gave. In my opinion, I think by the statement that we are still lucky, I quote, we are still lucky that our corrupt people do invest here. So you should be careful with that strategy. In my opinion, it is actually a condonation of corruption. Now, when Professor brings out corruption as one of such areas that have defeated Museveni, I really agree with him. And in fact, in my opinion, if you were to ask me to qualify President Museveni in the second, I do say he is not only an abater of corruption, he is not only a promoter of corruption, but he is corruption itself. I want to tell you that corruption is very, very dangerous to our country. The regime apologists have always boasted about infrastructure development. But if you to interrogate and deeper further, what are they boasting about and how much have we spent in acquiring that? You definitely realize that would rather have our old roads as they were in 1986 than to have these ones that are just, it's like leaving a child with a maid at home or a house help at home, and you task her with the responsibility to ensure that the child feeds. And instead of feeding the child, the house helper just gets the porridge, for instance, and smears it on the mouth of the child, such that by any chance, if the child leaks, that is what goes into its body. Now, that is what we are getting. I want to tell you, we have over 20,000 kilometers of main roads. The ones you'd say these are UNRA roads. But the NRM has constructed not more than 60,000 kilometers, tarmacking, not more than 6,000 kilometers. That in essence means that the NRM government would need 140 years to construct the 20,000 kilometers of the roads. I am trying to draw all of this such that I put you closer and our viewers closer to what corruption can do. Indeed, President Museveni lacks the will to fight corruption, because somebody who has the will to fight corruption, you cannot speak statements that promote the corrupt.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll come back to you with some queries in sharing your insight. If those who are following on Zoom, please, if you have questions, please keep them. We shall have that session of the question session. Now, I would like to go straight to Dr. Lina Zedriga. She's going to take us through the unacceptable face of the NRM party, and that is page 84, according to the book we are discussing. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Junior.
George.
Did I say Junior? Because you're a duplicate in terms of names of Professor Kanyeihamba. retired Supreme Court judge and also accomplished in his own right. And in fact, I want to remember when we were launching the book just before this one, he stated that the trails of a lion are only seen by the bones or the carcasses. You remember? Yeah, you were there. Yes, we totally admire and congratulate you, Professor and Justice. The latest book, which is The Defeat of President Museveni, it is actually the latest and incorporates even issues that we faced in terms of the 2021 elections last year. I congratulate my land friends. I have seen all these fleet of lawyers and those students. Well, this book has 14 chapters. It's 13 chapters. Yeah, and it's really nice to read. I actually picked it and I was in a taxi and I was reading through it, and it was taking me through like I was on a journey, being taken on a journey on a bumpy road by Professor. By the way, I'm also the vice chairperson of the Kanyeihamba Foundation, and by choice. There are so many things that I resonate with in this nice book. But then I will restrict myself in the interest of time to the unacceptable face of the NRM party at page 84. And the precursor to that actually is where Professor says, in fact, what I like so much is where he says, before 1986, let me quote you, Professor, and since then, President Museveni and NRM leadership have given lip service to the rule of law, democracy, transparency, and accountability. In practice, however, they have done the reverse. And what is worse, deliberately. When I was a schoolboy, lying was a vice, but under the NRM party, it is a virtue. Yeah. I'm quoting him. So it is normal, it is okay to lie under the NRM. That is the unacceptable face of the NRM party. To the extent when Kakwenza is tortured, a minister comes out and opens his mouth and he tweets on his social media a naked lie that these days the generation is obsessed with the drugs and identities. All the marks on Kakwenza's back could easily have been tattoos. Can you believe that? And here, Professor rightfully put it. Then, I also would like us to share that Professor rightfully puts it down on pen and paper with the most, the bravery at that age. He says the policies of NRM party, however misguided or damaging, are the ultra and omega imperatives of governance in Uganda. Lo and behold, you just see the prints of it implemented, whether it's the local government, whether it's the lip service to the women in Uganda, you bring them. It reminds me of one time where one of the leaders in Uganda says, the NRM governs you like they have already eaten the food. It is meat. Definitely at the time I grew up, meat was very rare. We used to eat meat only on Christmas Day. Forget where these days you have meat for breakfast and meat for lunch and in all kinds of names. So they have the food on a sania, big sania. They finish to eat and then they grab a few of you and then rub your lips on the sania and then show it out and says, please, you have been eating with us, when actually you have not even tasted that food. This professor has brought out so well. And another that resonates with us that, you know, I like his humor, that since then, a lot of water has gone under the Uganda political bridge. The president has gained absolute power under the NRM party flag. President Museveni exercises that power absolutely. Anyone standing in his way, is branded an enemy and he's liable to be crushed. Lo and behold, you have all, whether in terms of the politically active people like you, how many times our families are afraid and friends are afraid that we will be, you know, is it on? People are afraid. Political identity in opposition now is like a death sentence. Your friends, do not call me. Please, Lena, we are with you, but do not call us. Because, you know, we fear the risk. Lo and behold, it is not only for us who speak. Professor has shown us that everybody is targeted, so long as, even within the NRM, so long as you do not utter anything to correct Museveni's excesses. Now the sun is, I don't know what. So I want to say that in this book, Professor makes you to reflect whether to continue to keep quiet and be led to the slaughter like a sheep, or to speak. And then people know your position and look out to you. And finally, which is related to the unacceptable face of the NRM party, is that President Museveni believes that government can do anything it wants. Here, page 63, he believes that government can do anything it wants, provided it has the power and the numbers to do it. But do they still have the numbers? Do they still have the numbers? He is now more with the sun. And the Butulikas. He and the NRM now govern Uganda by law and not under the law. In this context, the NRM party, with its greatest number of MPs in the legislature, then is now depicted and held out as the supreme sovereignty of Uganda. I want to end by quoting one time when the Deputy Attorney General currently was, we belong to some group of Catholic lawyers or faith-based lawyers. And when he was appointed, they had a guest of honor, Chris Rwakasisi, who is also the presidential advisor. And when Christ the King, that was not so long ago, but before I became politically, so that was 2020. And then Chris had this to tell us, said, you people, the lawyers, you may occupy any powerful offices, your worship, state attorney and so on. But let me share with you one thing. At the time I was in the ministry, we were in a government, a voted government. I felt so powerful, and I felt His Excellency Obote was God the Father Almighty, and I was His Son Jesus Christ, because I could I could order for anything, anything. My words were final. That was the level at which he was trusted by the president. He was sharing with us. But when that power was lost, before he knew it, he was kneeling before prison warders, squatting before them. So use your power, we in faith. And he finally advised, your power does not come from you. Your power comes from an almighty being. You must respect it, and you must respect people. You must consult people. You must not rely on your power, because your power is powerlessness. That is what Professor has enabled us in this book to reflect on. And I believe in it very strongly. And indeed, the defeat of President Museveni is for us to know that people like Professor Kanyeihamba have the audacity, the courage, the duty to inform in writing the dirt that is going on, that has gone on for 36 years. This is evidence ab initio. Thank you so much, Professor. Well done. And I would urge everybody to read, translate this book.
before I leave to the next speaker, still he brings up a point, a quote actually, what someone was mentioning about that all cats have 4 legs, still on the face. My dog has 4 legs, therefore my dog is a cat. What are your insights about that briefly? Topic you discussed.
Yes.
He says that it's a last article actually.
Yes, I've seen it.
All cats have 4 legs.
Yeah.
My dog has 4 legs.
Mm.
Therefore, my dog is a cat.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to share what you think about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's actually the conclusion. It's a very powerful quote. And it's a very powerful quote which starts by actually another quote where he says that where there is a will, corruption shall surely be defeated. Where there is a will. But where you are telling IGG that please go slow, these are investors, these are not corrupt people. Eh? And then you recycle one from the office of the prime minister, the most corrupt, and then you take to Ministry of Gender, you recycle blatantly. What does that say? And then also he says another description of the NRM party. All cats have 4 legs. My dog has 4 legs. Therefore, my dog is a cat. My dog is a cat. It is not a dog. Eh? And there are so many faces of this. These are not corrupt people. These are investors. Don't scare them. No. That one, do not touch him. Do not touch him. From the OPM, we have been there where there have been all these supplies, the corruption scandals, whether it is the plastic pangas to what were those called? The stones in the with those that were sent to the refugees and the internally displaced persons. The food with the glass. That's when we started calling the world food problems. You know? Yes, I was up north, and it was OPM doing all these things. It was the OPM supplying all kinds of the rubbish, and then people, and I didn't know they had even exported it to Libya. Thanks be to Professor that, yes. So, to me, recycling people, not only the corrupt people, rewarding violence. I am the one who brutalized the opposition, especially Nupi in northern Uganda. So I deserve to be the Speaker of Parliament. I am the one who brutalized the people in Kasese. So I need to be taken on promotion to Somalia. And that's what has been happening. Cleansing the most crude people, rewarding violence, rewarding corruption. And I'm telling you, what else can we say? Professor has given us a rope, a very long rope, by the way, to hang NRM and to hang Museveni and to hang Muhozi. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Now, to Mr. Toko Godwin, there are 3 points that are actually coming up in this book about the defeat of President Museveni. One, he talks about corruption, and he goes deep to explain how the corruption has already eaten up the office of the Prime Minister. He talks about the IGG, how both the offices are, saying there is corruption in this office is the dean of thieves. That is what he explains. And still, he talks about the police. The president is publicly quoted to have said that police is the most corrupt institution in the country. And still, this is the institution that is supposed to maintain law and order.
Yes.
Now, as young people, what do you think should be done as young people to solve those problems of corruption in the institutions?
So first of all, I am afraid that corruption is like the motor that holds the NRM together. So if there was less corruption between 1986 and say 2005, perhaps that was because it was being less exposed. People were still under the euphoria that we have a new government and they were trying to work hard to ensure that it succeeds. Or perhaps because there was less to steal. Yeah, any of those. Now, without corruption, just as a by the way, without corruption and torture, the NRM cannot survive. Yeah, you know that the NRM buys support, and increasingly after 2005, it has become more and more expensive buying people. So the NRM, I like calling it the NRA will always buy people, and it will buy them corruptly because it will use money that is meant for doing other things. When you look at the budget that is passed nowadays, all the money that goes to, that is termed as classified budget, that should be worrying us. Yeah, it's classified mainly not because it is going to health, but always because it is going to the army, where the president is the commander in chief. Well, sometimes corruption happens right within our eyes. You see it, but you can't say that is corruption, because even when it happens there, it is covered, it is given a good name. In the Bible, there's a story where Jesus says, you can see a corpse, you can see a grave that is well painted, and you're like, wow, that looks a very nice grave. Doesn't change the fact that what is in there is rotting. Yeah, that is the reality of the NRM. So for as long as the NRM stays in power, just expect more corruption, because they will need to buy people more and more. They will need to break the bank each time. Yeah. So towards the elections, they'll buy cars for these musicians instead of building hospitals. They'll all of a sudden they're appointing everyone a presidential advisor because they're buying their loyalty, and that is corruption in and of itself. When they talk of corruption, most times we think of people stealing money physically. It's not that is not corruption. That is corruption, but this too is corruption. Rigging elections, all those are signs of corruption that we discuss. Now, to the kind of corruption that the professor is talking about, he shows you how the NRA, despite trying hard, because it shows you that perhaps there was a will at some point to fight these things, and then along the way the will went and they moved on. Let me tell you, what I have come to appreciate is that President Mr. Museveni sold his soul to remain the president of Uganda. He threw the kitchen sink, yeah, literally, to remain the president of Uganda. So because he needs to stay president, that is the only thing that he can get. He needs to do whatever it takes, yeah. Whether he crashes the economy, whether our image internationally is thrown in gutters, he doesn't mind. For him, it's about staying in power. So with corruption now, the only thing that helps him stay in power, because he needs the money, because he needs to allow some level of corruption. And the police is corrupt because he needs to allow a certain level of corruption in the police. Under Mobutu, when Mobutu was president in Zaire, there was an article, I think it was Article 95 of the Constitution. It was not written, but everyone knew it. Because when the soldiers were demanding for more pay, he always told them that you have guns. So the police more or less in Uganda feel like, even when they are paid little, yeah, it's a privilege being a police officer, because you can always stop a border man, find a problem with him, instead of taking him to court, or in fact, you may not even have a problem. You can create one, because most of them don't know the law. You can scare them and say, oh, you've not done this, you're doing that, and then give me 20,000, give me 50,000. That money is what keeps the policeman going. That money is the one that through which he affords school fees, because his salary is very minimal. Yeah. Yeah, it's also laughable that we pay everybody else a lot. We pay Jennifer a lot of money, pay the Bank of Uganda government a lot of money, and all this, because we don't want them to be corrupt. But the men with the guns are paid peanuts, because, and somehow we think that it's okay to pay them the peanuts and they will do the work miraculously. And also related to that, you hear cases of police officers hiring out their guns. I'm not making up this. This has been the media, hiring up their guns to criminals to go and use them and make money. So all these things are signs of a failed system, when a system that is crashing under its own weight. So they are deliberate, they are not by mistake. I see my friend saying that the NRM should go back to its ways. The NRM ways have always been corruption. There has not been a different way. If it is more now, it is more now because we are seeing it more, you understand? Or we become vigilant. Yeah, we become vigilant with things like social media. A story that happens in Machinje can reach the farthest corner of my village in Maracha in a matter of seconds. So because of that, now all of us are in the know, we can always see it. And I think it's upon Ugandans to act up. Ugandans, this is our country. Yeah. Ivan Bowe started well, and he said, all these problems started from the early days of the NRA. But we want to believe that these problems actually didn't even start there. The problem started from as far back as 1894, when Uganda was colonized. We were pushed, understand it, and the system was created that benefited those at the top. At that time, it was the British who were benefiting from the system. So throughout the time they were benefiting, it was a system of corruption fueled by them to support and sustain their stay in Uganda. When Obote came to power, because the system again favored a few individuals, they were corrupt at the expense of everyone else. When Amin came, it is the same system. So it's a time that one of these days Ugandans should assume power themselves, understand it, take charge of whatever is going on in their country, and they can be more respected. Even by African standard, the corruption in Uganda is very unacceptable.
Okay, now as young people, do we have a robust brand? Because you see young people are raising up, fighting the same vices.
Yes, it's important that we give credit to whoever is fighting the mess in whichever way they are doing. Yeah, People tend to say that, you're all on social media and what. When someone does it on social media, that is okay. Maybe that's what they can do that way. We need to first encourage them. But we need to also tell the young people to become more vigilant. We need to wake up. We need to get to the reality of these things. Don't sit down. If a man has lived, Uganda's life expectancy, last time I checked, it's about 63. It's about, it should be there somewhere in 60s. So if a man has lived to about 75, he has really lived, yeah? Very, very long compared to Ugandan standards. So if a young person of 25, 30, you shouldn't let these guys mess up this country for you. Always take up the steps and always ensure that you do whatever you can to make this country better. Because you have a bigger stake in this country. Normally speaking, young people live longer than old people. I'm not saying that old people always die fast. Yeah, old people sometimes live longer than the younger. Parents have sometimes buried their children, but in African society, we say that is the wrong thing. Yeah, should be the other way around. The children should normally bury the parents. So, yeah, so it should always be the other way around. So the younger people have a bigger stake in this country. When you see these things happening, when they eat your money, when they eat the money that is meant to fund kids at Makerere, and then we all look on and say, oh, that's the problem, Makerere. No, tomorrow we are going to be together, and these things are going to affect us all, because at the end of the day, Uganda is for us all. We don't want to have a minister tomorrow who is corrupt because someone ate the money that should have facilitated lecturers at Makerere, which compounds the problem.
Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing those insights. Now, in the next 10 minutes, we are finishing in 10 minutes from now. 5 minutes for discussing the last topic, and we have 5 minutes for the questions, and then we finish, if there are questions for those who are online. Now, Solomon, I want you to talk about, actually, you're going to be the first one, but I will invite any speaker who wants to talk about this. And this is page 95. Is succession a viable plan for Uganda and the role of everyone? So I would love to invite all the panelists who would wish to comment about this to share their insights, but beginning with you, Solomon.
Thank you very much, George. To begin with, I'll quote one of the people I've admired of high intellectualism in Africa, Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe, in his work called Things Fall Apart, he seems to suggest that when things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Anarchy is loosed upon the world. In any case, we are trying to look at the defeat of General Museveni. It is on record. My brother, the Right Honorable Speaker of GP here, cited President Museveni on 4th December. The same thing happens to my brother Ivan Bowe, admitting that it is true. We have corruption. We have corrupt officials. They have crippled public services. You know, what Ugandans fail to understand is when we have bad governance in this country that is checked with such vices that cannot be fought or cannot be checked by the leaders in power, we can never get absolute or good services like in public health services, the education sector. It is totally down, totally down. So in the incident that President Museveni admits that he has been defeated by this war, and the people, because we have 3 mainstream battalions in this war of corruption, as pointed out in page 96 of this book, The Defeat of President Museveni. The first is the Inspector General of Government, followed by the Office of the Prime Minister, followed by the President's Office. On so many occasions, or in so many occasions, the Prime Minister has come out to confess that actually I love one thing about this new Prime Minister. Her arrogancy exposes the true face of governance in Uganda. In her arrogancy, she confesses that she has come to check the corrupt officials in the NRM, most specifically the OPM's office. OPM's office. Put her aside. Look at Nakalema. Colonel Nakalema, before she was reshuffled, she appeared on national television. She confessed to the world that some of her frustrations in fighting corruption are the corrupt officials themselves, the mafias, who the president himself has shielded. Go to the office of the IGG, Betty Kamya. Betty Kamya is saying that, well, I am going to introduce lifestyle audits. President Museveni is saying you will scare off our investors. So the new trend in Uganda is corruption is investment. That's what he's trying to communicate. But putting that aside, it is on record. President Museveni has chosen power at the cost of justice in this country. President Museveni has chosen, has decided to protect the corrupt at the cost of what he promised Ugandans in 1986. More so the Addis Ababa speech he makes that brings him at the limelight. Well, I believe that the appointment of Jim Muhwezi and other people that are on record for corruption cases that they have not answered. I don't know whether we young people that make up the biggest percentage in this country, 75.8%, are really content with making us toys. President Museveni has made us toys. Put aside Jim Muhwezi. Jim Muhwezi has an unanswered question. Says, well, be Minister of Security. It is on record. Professor Kanyeihamba confesses in that book. And it is also on record that the minister, Kahinda Otafire, openly comes out to admit in an incident, if you read that book, I think it's around page 29, Professor Kanyeihamba had been given a check to go for treatment abroad by the judiciary, a check of 10 million. What happens is because the check came through the Minister of Justice, Kahinda Otafire. Kahinda Otafire, we don't know how. The banks have not come out to explain. The IGG has not come out to explain. And this has gone to sections like the complaint has been lodged into people like the OPM, by then it was Ruhakana. They have not come out to discipline Kahinda Otafire or to question him. How do you forge? Because this is forgery, this is fraudulent, false obtainance of money. They do not come out to hold Kahinda Otafire accountable. I find it so ironical that President Museveni is securing our future. In the event that President Museveni has confirmed there is corruption in this country, in the event that Nabanja openly, arrogantly confirms that she has come to fight the corrupt in OPM, and Nakalema is saying, I'm frustrated because of the corrupt protected by the president. Actually, these are some of the reasons why she was reshuffled and the public was lied that she has been given a scholarship to go and study abroad. They told us abroad. So in the incident that the IGG, OPM, and the office of the president have failed to fight corruption for 36 years, President Museveni tells us at the steps of parliament in 1986, mine is not a mere change. It is a fundamental change. The bigger question we have as young people, what happened for 36 years? If he has failed in 36 years, do we believe he can make it in 5 years? Impossible. President Museveni is that devil talked about in the Bible that came to steal, kill, and destroy. He has stolen from Ugandans because Ugandans have been taking care of President Museveni in State House, buying the guns and batons used by his son, President Muhwezi, to torture Ugandans that practice their rights. So I'm concluding. So in any case that he has stolen from us, he has killed very many futures of young people. I believe this book is a mantle passed on to the young people. It is high time as young people we started to demand for change. We entertained the succession talk about President Museveni's demise. Because if we do not do it now, I don't think there is any right time. 2026 is not any far. But
Professor mentions about the Muhwezi project in the same book. You're talking about the succession plan. He mentions about him accusing the new envoys being young people. Like he talked about Magombe, the Honorable Magombe as a new envoy. Both of them are young people. So what do you see in that level of the Muhwezi project? You're saying succession. Are you okay with that?
I'm actually convicted to believe that the sense of young people has lost the sense of the word young people has lost meaning. We all know Honorable Magombe has served this country and I was happy when she resigned believing that she has done her part for this country, she went to explore her ability elsewhere, which I believe President Museveni should also put down the mantle. If he believes and his fanatics that he has served this country, he should put down, he should actually resign. He should step down and entertain the talk about young people. Let us ask, first of all, I would ask myself, who is a young person? The National Youth Council Act defines a young person as one who is between the age of 18 and 30 years. When you go to elsewhere, the UN documents and African Union, they define a young person as one between the age of 18 and 35. So I do not know whether the people you're citing for me on the appointment list of President Museveni, there is one that falls in that age group. We are living in limbo.
But that is what is in the that is what is in the book.
This is what. Well, this is. I don't think that is what is in the book. I don't think that is what is in the book. Well, he tries to refer to the resignation of Betty. Actually, the resignation of Betty Bigombe and the reappointment of Betty Bigombe and so many other people. And to me, I want to conclude by saying that President Museveni should actually prepare joining his generation in retirement and leave young people like today we are having many on the front line struggle for the space.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I can see, Doctor, you want to disqualify yourself.
Yes, I want to entirely disqualify myself from discussing that succession because I am hurting. I am hurting. The 2021 elections confirmed by the Kayunga, Ugandans did not vote Museveni. They did not. We did not. It was blatant military occupation of all polling stations. They failed in Uganda because of the social media, but up north, people were thrown in River Island. So, and by the way, we have never voted. You understand? So I cannot start talking of the succession of somebody we have not voted. And that is the position also of my party. And I know what happened. And so I disqualify myself from it. However, that side notwithstanding, the people of Uganda have spoken. The people of Uganda, why do you think people are being abducted?
So in other words, we should not be talking about succession.
Of what?
But who is
of succession of what? Are we in the same Uganda?
What
my position is my party position from experience. We do not. We know he stole our sacks. Allow me qualify myself. Please do not be on a hurry because this is a very sensitive matter and media can misquote me that I was discussing comfortably Museveni's succession. That's why I have disqualified myself on it. And he stated it very well from the beginning. It has been either buying and so on, and now the militarization came when some of us demystified the issue of being bought. Okay, so it now was military occupation of the and really disenfranchising Ugandans. So with that, we just say Ugandans, we need, yes, this is very good account really of why the stealing, the robbing, the disenfranchisation is going on. So there is evidence on record. Ugandans here, we need to read.
Okay, thank you. I would not go into asking the party position about who is currently leading the country. Still, if we have 2 minutes for those, it would be unfair if we don't ask for those who have been following us online. If they have questions, I would like to give them 2 minutes to ask their questions. If not, gentlemen, you can entertain this
concluded.
Thank you. I respectfully disagree with my colleague, Dr. Zedriga. You know, an ostrich puts its head in shrubs, that does not mean that it is not visible. Actually, the behind part, which is bigger, remains the most visible. It is just that at that point of putting the head in the shrubs, it's just that it thinks that the head represents the whole of it. The truth of the matter is we can argue about state capture. We have on record a very rough history of stealing votes in Uganda, that it is now almost normal and painful. I have had a chance to interview very many young people that have lost ribs, that are going through a lot of trauma, that have been tortured because they support a particular candidate. And this has gone on for a long time. In the recent cycle, it was no. The other cycle, it was Kizza Besigye. And some of us who participated know clearly that you are almost in a war zone. True. You are in a war zone, you want to campaign, but you're also being hunted. So we understand that that's where we are, but also we must accept that we are under capture for us to fight and get ourselves out of this state capture.
So for you, in actual sense,
in actual sense, I understand her position and I respect it. But I'm saying we must view the body politic of our country the way it is. And when we have a proper knowledge, when we have proper knowledge of what the problem is, then we can prescribe the best solution. And to me, and I want to be so clear that we are not going to develop as a country. We are not going to have peace in the actual meaning of peace that goes beyond silence of guns with this NRM junta. We cannot.
Okay, thank you. From there, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this interesting book review discussion, the Africa 2022 book review. Now, for those who have books and feel like we should really discuss your books, if you think your books are so impactful to the society, reach out to us and we see how we can discuss this. I've been George Justice Kanyeihamba, and with my interesting, you have something to say?
Yes. I had a simple comment about the succession.
Okay, briefly. And
I think that it is inevitable as a country to discuss the succession plan. Now, we should draw it away from President Museveni and who we think from the circles of President Museveni will succeed him. But we should put it in a broader perspective of the country, because I want to tell you, our country is bleeding. The 36 years of NRA so far has done us a lot of disservice. I want to tell you, there are many people who died in the north.
Too many.
In Iteso, in Mukura, very many people
graves.
were tortured. I mean, were killed.
Graves.
Recently in Kasese. So we are bleeding to the extent that there are some voices that have started coming up. And these voices are against a particular ethnic group. I do not think that it is healthy for us to break that line. I want to tell you, if you go to the western part of Uganda, basically Nankole and Chigezi, you will realize recently they were actually showing pictures of buildings of schools there, the roads. You realize that there is nothing that is much different in those areas that as compared to other parts of the country. But because President Museveni has, overstayed, it has become natural for one to believe that everybody who is Turia Singura, Turia Mujenda, Turia Kumanawe, that they are all well off, which is not true. Now, we should speak about the things openly. Therefore, we need to have a conversation. We need, as a country, to discuss succession. In fact, we were to begin this discussion as early as yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We would not, proceed from there. And actually, I would like.
By
to
the way, a
end
disclaimer.
the discussion.
Excuse me, a disclaimer. Mine is in relation to this book. It's not a generic thing that I talked about. Excuse me. I would like to be on the spot that I am not disqualifying or putting my head in the sand like an ostrich. Discussion, they discuss, and with my behind, the old behind, Excuse me. So, no. So, can you please allow me qualify, Justice, please, with due respect from what I have heard. And my conclusion is like, I do not want anything about the succession, but mine was about specifically Museveni succession. I disqualified myself from it. So I'm putting my record right. Yeah. But for the other brother, absolutely. Not even at the national level only, even at the regional levels. Absolutely, I agree. But this other one, no.